and welcome to Star Studios Meet the Author for Best of a Generation. My name is Portia Monique, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Morgan Harper Nichols, who is an acclaimed poet, visual artist, musician, and best-selling author. Welcome to the show, Morgan.
Hello, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you have such an inspiring story. We've talked before, and your artwork is amazing. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to get into this new book. It's your fourth book. Let's talk all about it. Let's get into it. You are only just the beginning. How did that come about?
Yes, so this book is a part of, it's the third book that I've written of poetry and art. And the first book was all about just finding peace and room to breathe about the past. And then the second book was about being in the present for whatever the journey is that you are on. And this book is about the future, and it's about looking ahead. And I didn't know it was going to happen this way, but as I started writing it, me and my family decided to move back to Atlanta, where me and my husband are both from. And just all the things with coming back has been such a wide awakening just experience for me, just realizing how much, wow, even when you have these moments in your life where you might be taking a direction that you weren't anticipating, at the same time, it's a new chapter that is absolutely worth it to move forward in with courage. So that's where I have found myself. Every single page was just written with so much courage, because I'm just like, these are the real-time thoughts of somebody who's been making a lot of moves. And it's just like, how can I, literally and figuratively, and how can I just learn how to breathe through all of that? So yeah.
Speaking of making a lot of moves, a lot of change we spoke about just recently, the intro of your book tells a vivid story of your 2-year-old son, Jacob, and his wooden train set, which made me kind of see the world from his perspective, right? So let's talk about you being the co-conductor of your life and exactly what that means.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. So for me, I'm the kind of person, just ever since I was a kid, I didn't really like the spotlight on me. So when I was a little preacher's kid growing up in Georgia, I love the idea of like, when when I started learning about God, I'm like, okay, somebody else who can take the credit for all the big stuff, because I I personally don't like responsibility. Like, I would be like the last person who could probably run for political office or something. I'm like, I want to be a part of a team. I want to contribute. I want to help. I'll make your graphics, your invitations. But I struggle a lot. I struggle a lot with like taking the lead, in a sense, when it comes to building or planning anything. And as I've watched with my son, one thing that I've just learned from him is just the beauty of being able to work together, and the beauty of being able to say like, oh, okay, there's a little bit I can contribute, but you as my child, like, I'm also here to help you move along the way as well. And you'll put the pieces together, and I'm here, I can help, I can contribute. And that just takes a lot of pressure off, because I just think that there's, even if somebody's not a parent, like, there's just so much pressure in general of just like, what is my role here? What am I supposed to do here? What's my contribution? And it's like, and at the same time, we can look around and see how we are joining in with other people and contributing and planning, moving forward. So, yeah.
I love how you phrase that, the co-conductor of your life. And you are moving through it seamlessly, it appears, right? But I do want to take a step back and talk about your inspiring journey. We did mention it at the beginning of this interview, but if people are not as familiar with your story, I want to give you a chance to kind of just bring us up to speed on how you were diagnosed with autism at a late age in life.
Yes, so I was diagnosed with autism, ADHD, and a sensory processing disorder at age 31. And that came as a result of me having struggled with a lot of things in my adult life that I didn't necessarily see them as something that I could even ask for help for. And I got to a point when I was 27, and I started hearing, okay, that's when your brain is developed. And I was 27, and I was like, I still feel like I'm struggling with like a lot of life things, like even just organizing bills or socializing. And I think even when I say socializing, I think some people might really think to like going to parties, but you have to socialize to get a job. Like socialization is a part of pretty much every aspect of our society in some way. So that can be very scary for, a young broke millennial as myself. I'm like, how am I going to get a job, secure a job? Like if I'm struggling to just be able to have conversations, and I just feel like I'm not able to connect with people. So I just had a lot of concerns like that. I also had some physical health concerns, lots of stress. So I went to my doctor and I was like, hey, I have all this stuff going on. And based on some things my parents thought when I was a teenager, and just based on some light research I'm doing, I think I could possibly be on the spectrum. I think I could be autistic. And my doctor immediately dismissed me. He didn't even look at me. He didn't even take a beat. He was just like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, he was like, if you were autistic, you would have come in here with X, Y, and Z, and this would have been wrong. And sadly, I took his word. Sadly, I walked out of that room and I was just like, well, he's a doctor. What do I know? And I left that room. And it wasn't until the pandemic started that I started seeing social media content. And it was a lot of TikTok videos that were adults talking about being diagnosed as adults. And I was like, oh, hold up, wait a minute. Like other people had these stories of like, yeah, talk to my doctor. They wouldn't even like let me get a question in. And I just felt lost, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, there's more of us out there. So it really was through social media that helped me see, and I heard specifically from people online, they were sharing, they're like, you have to find somebody who specializes in seeing adults. They're like, that's a distinction because there isn't as much research on it. So if no one's ever evaluated an adult, they may not even know what to look for. So that helped me even just Google adult autism specialist. Thankfully, after a few attempts, I was able to find somebody, and that specialist really helped me guide and see like, yeah, here's some language for all the things that you've been struggling with, and here's some things that you can do to help. And that was even a part of moving back to my hometown. So it was like, I need to be able to work less, and work less in our society means your income changes. So I was living in a much more expensive city on the West Coast. I love where I was living in Phoenix. I was not trying to leave. I loved it there. But at the same time, I was just like, I'm having to hustle and work so hard in a way that I know is not sustainable. And I know that my well-being is being impacted by this, and I want to be able to be here for my child. Me and my husband, we run our business together. We're like, we don't want to just feel like we're always just having to go. So let's go back home. And I really do believe it was the diagnosis process and learning all that language that helped me make those hard decisions, because it was like, okay, this isn't just made up. Like, you're actually you actually have needs, and you're allowed to adjust and make room for change according to those needs. So yeah, that's kind of my story.
And thank you for sharing that, because I think it's an important piece of your story, because it's most certainly inspirational, and it teaches us to be resilient and to advocate for ourselves, right? Especially when it might not be the most popular thing to do. But you push through. Here we are, 3 books later, as well as your self-published book of poems, and you are thriving and flourishing. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. I'm really grateful. I really am.
Absolutely. So I want to get into this book some more, right? So it's dropping on Valentine's Day. Any special reason as to why you guys picked Valentine's Day?
Yes. So when I released my first poetry and art book, it came out a little bit before Valentine's Day. It was late January 2020. And I had somebody just passively say this to me, but I've never been able to let it go when I was releasing the book. And I told the date, I was like, yeah, the book comes out, I think it was January 21st. And the guy I was talking to, he was like, oh, that's really good because actually that's, I had never heard of it. He was like, that's called Blue Tuesday. And he was like, that's when a lot of people are, or it was coming out around that time. He was like, a lot of people, they've kind of gotten past the new year high of like, oh yeah, the year's starting over. And as that year sinks in and people start getting closer to February, a lot of those feelings start creeping in, like, what is going on and what is going on in my life? So that was a conversation I had in 2020. As we know, that's still true for a lot of people, just starting off the year, like, okay, here we go. And then 3 days in, it's like, oh my goodness, here we go. And that is why I really do like to try to release books in this time. Like, this is some of my I call it my, I mean, I'm referencing one of my favorite books. It's called Deep Work by Cal Newport, but this is like my deep work time because first of all, my birthday is on February 4th. So I know this time of year, it's just like, yeah, there are a lot of feelings. There's a lot of people like, what am I doing? Where is my life? What are my relationships? So anything in that range, that kind of January to mid-February, before we get that spring weather on the East Coast, that is where I try as a poet and artist to really hang out in that area and just think, what can I say just to help people know that they're seen and that they are heard and that there is room for growth in this season. So, yeah.
I love it. And happy pre-birthday to you.
Yes. As I said that, I was like, it's Saturday. My birthday is Saturday. It's sneaking up on me this year.
But let's get into this title, right? So you are only just the beginning. What's the story behind it?
Yes. So the original title of the book was actually There Is More to Your Story. So I was just really stuck on that for a long time. And then my editor, who just helped me, she was like, how can we bring that, like incorporate that word you? You know, what does that mean? I'm like, well, there's more to your story. But like, can you bring it? So it was like on a list of so many different things. I was like, I don't want to, but I probably should, because the first book was All Along You Were Blooming. Second book, How Far You Have Come. So she's like, let's bring that you in there. And I'm like, I just don't know. And I actually fought it for a long time. And it was on a list of name ideas. And I was like, you know why I am fighting this name so hard? Because it is so hard for me to live this. I tend to be more on the pessimistic side sometimes. Like, I have anxiety. I tend to be like, but am I only just beginning? How do I know? How do I actually know that? So I was like, it takes me a lot of courage to live this. So it was very important that I had a title that I was like, if this is going to go out in the world, it's going to be something that I am like, y'all, I am right there with you in this, trying to look ahead with hope amidst everything that's going on and explore what does it mean for us to say individually and collectively, we're only just beginning. There's so much more to come. So yeah, that's the story.
And I am glad that you incorporated the you into the story, because it does kind of flow. But it's telling because it also represents us, and it tells us the message that we are only just the beginning. So we appreciate that.
So thank you.
Absolutely. So what should we expect? What should readers and audiences expect from this book?
Yes, I'm so glad that I get to say this about this book, is that this book is created like a grown-up picture book. It is filled with color. I've illustrated quite a few really, what I feel are really strong motifs. There's a section in this book called Finding Your People, Lessons from Elephants. And it's set in a savanna, and it's looking at the elephant matriarch and what we can learn from her and how she approaches community. And even if you're obviously not able to see an elephant in person, just these colors on the page and the elephants and the stories that we can learn from the wisdom of these very beautiful, powerful animals. And I wanted to evoke a sense of wonder with that, because I was like, if we're talking about the future, like there needs to be some color, there needs to be something that evokes imagination. So you'll see lots of color in this book. Something else I put in this book I've never done before And I'm really excited about it. It's at the end of every chapter. So it's a poetry book. It's poetry on every page. But at the end of every chapter, I've done a listicle. So there is a listicle of like 8 things to carry with you that really sum up the chapters. Some chapters have 5 things, 6 things. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to be where if you're just flipping through for the first time and you just want something kind of quick that you can just hold on to and go through that list, it's all there at the end of the chapter. So yeah, I spent a lot of time just thinking about all the different little entry points that people might be coming to from this book. But I was like, one thing I think a lot of us have in common though, from all those different entry points is, yeah, we all may have a lot going on. We may not always be able to like sit down and read a book cover to cover in the way that we always want to. So this book is one of those that you can open up, get some color, get some poetry, get something to carry with you for the day.
I love it. Thank you for leaving us with that after every chapter. Now, I do have to ask you this, and I know you said that you're a bit of a pessimist. However, I still want to know, aside from naming the book, what is one of the hardest things that you had to endure through writing this book?
Yes, yes. And you know, going back to, you know, that word pessimism, like that's a very strong word. It's a very strong word. But for me, it is something that I have to actively work through. And especially being autistic, being a Black woman, being an artist, like there's so many different aspects of my life where I can see there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that make me wonder, are we going to be okay? And how are we going to be okay? I want to know the details, like give me some insight. So those are some things that I work through just in my mind on a day-to-day basis. And while I was writing this, I was asking a lot of those questions about this whole art poetry thing that I've built. And I was starting to say no to some opportunities because I was like, that is just going to wear me out. I don't have the capacity for it. And in doing that, I actually I had some friendship relationships change. I had some people in my life who I thought like they would understand when I'm like, hey, I'm just not going to be able to do these things because I'm tired. And they're like, well, but you're so successful. You have all this going for yourself. I'm like, yeah, but I'm tired. Yeah, but why would you quit? And I'm like, you know, that's not the kind of energy I need right now. Like, I need someone who can say like, you're right. You've done a lot. You've done enough, like take that time for yourself. And so that really made me recognize that like some people, and you know, actually for me, it's like not even so much hard feelings with those people. It's just like, oh, okay, I just need to establish boundaries around that relationship and what I talk to you about, because I don't want any more of that. I've already gotten a lot of that of like, do more, do more, do more. I need people in my life that we can move together and be in community together, but it's not always about us just trying to force ourselves into what's next. And those elephants, I'm telling you, those elephants helped me during that time. That writing that chapter was such a moment of that, because I just got to really just bask in the idea of like, what do I want community to look like? What kind of friends do I want to have? What kind of relationships do I want to have with people in my life? That's an ongoing question, of course, but it felt really good to have something else to kind of think about as I was reflecting on that. So yeah.
Well, give us one of those lessons from those elephants before.
Yes. Yes, one of my favorites that I love about elephants is their vibrational communication and how they speak without words and how they can communicate just by being in proximity to each other. And what I love about that is when I think about my sister, someone who I'm very close to, you know, we both are parents of toddlers, and, you know, of course, there's just a lot of tiredness that comes with that. And as the years go on, sometimes we get together now and we don't have as much time to sit and talk like we used to for hours, because we get 3 words in, and our kids are 7 days apart. So they're both 3 now. So we get a few words in and somebody's doing something and we got to go address that. So, with that, it's like, wow, how beautiful is it that even us just being able to be in the presence of each other, even though our relationship has changed right now, like we're not able to be like, let's go on a girls trip. And like, we would just do that. We're just like, let's just hop in the car, go somewhere. Like that was what me and my sister did before kids, like back in our 20s. But at the same time, it's like, even just being in the same room together, like that is something special. Like we don't always have to go and do something, just being able to be and let that be enough. So yeah, I just love the way that elephants speak to each other, just by being together. So yeah.
And now you just gotta, learn to pick up with the kids and just go.
Yes, yeah, we do like once a year, we do something, but yeah, it's they're spread out. Oh my goodness, but yes.
Okay, so I did ask about, one of the hardest things. Now I want to get to a more optimistic question and ask you about what was one of the best things that you liked about writing this book?
It was a great opportunity for me to be able to take a break from the rush. I was working on the art right when we moved back to Atlanta. And it was just a time where I was just so tired. I was so tired. And being able to create art, I feel like I'm just doing what my childhood self, if my 7-year-old self could see just me sitting there making art, she would be so happy and so proud of myself. And I think that that is something that I try to make room for, and I'm proud of myself for having made room for it. Because even though it was work, I worked with a publisher to make a book and all of that. At the end of the day, it's there's got to be something interesting in it for my ADHD to be able to stay invested in it, and to just be able to fall in love with sketching elephants and lions and butterflies. It's, to me, that was just so healing. It was such a reminder of even just how wonderful nature can be, even if you're just sitting in your house, just reflecting on that. And I just had a lot of little moments like that when I finished the book, I was like, I got to keep this up. I got to make sure that after I turn the book in, that I don't just stop sketching and that I don't just stop drawing. So, because sometimes that can happen, like I'll my creative time ends up just being work time. So I've been really proud of myself, because I feel like I've gotten better with that. Even since writing the book, my son's trains have gotten significantly more elaborate. And we spent a lot of time, like I even taught him how to, no, I'm not like an engineer or anything, but he doesn't know that. I even taught him how to, like, I was like, let's do some technical drawings for the tracks you want to do. So we've been like doing sketches of the tracks and all the trains, and he just thinks I'm so cool when I draw when I draw stuff. So I'm just like, I'm so proud of myself for doing this. Like it's making something really special that's special to me. Like I find it very soothing to draw, but he's also connecting with it. So yeah, I think that was one of the positive takeaways. Like when I look at this, I'm just like, I'm proud of you for doing that. I'm proud of you for taking that time for yourself and continuing that even after the book was done. So yeah.
Yeah, that is, you should be proud of yourself. That is something to, give yourself kudos for. So kudos to you for that. Um, I also wanted to touch on, you were talking about how your son is now sketching with you. And I just wanted to commend you for helping him to explore his gifts too, right? Because that is incredible. And for him to think that his mom is so cool, you are, because you're helping him to have an outlet as well. And I can't wait to see what he creates either. You put that in the intro of your book. So absolutely kudos to that.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And your son, where do you find inspiration to write?
Mhm. Life and feeling like I don't, if I come across something that I want to say, but I'm like, I don't know where else to say it. So there are times where, for instance, right now I'm on this whole, I've gone back to grad school. That's something that's happened in my life. I went back to grad school this January, and in my program, I'm studying how a lot about technology and social media and how these tools can be better in short. And that takes me down like a lot of different rabbit holes and things. And I actually find myself getting like, um, frustrated at times about like different things that I see online, and just like, well, what could my contribution be to try to make this better? So sometimes sitting at the dinner table with my husband, I'll just start going on and on. And then after about like 3 minutes, he's like, yeah, that's great. That's great. And I'm like, you're not listening to me anymore. And that for me is a cue. Go write about it then. Go write about it. I literally did that yesterday. So I look for that in my daily life. I'm like, what is it where when I'm talking about to either my husband or my sister, I'm like, what do you think about this? Da, 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 da. And then after, if it gets to a point where they're like, okay, well, you go write about that, or that's great that you're thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's something that I need to go write about. And that is where I find a lot of inspiration, because it is getting harder after having been very public for the past few years. Sometimes like it's harder to get the voices out of my head sometimes of like, well, how are other people going to relate to this? Like, where is this going to go? Is this a book? Is this a podcast? Is this a social media post? And I like to just be more free with it. So I try to just pay attention to those little moments throughout the day where I'm noticing things and my mind is just going and going about it. And it's like, focus on just writing it all down and just try to make a practice of doing that on a regular basis. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. And before we get out of here, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your creative process, right? So we heard earlier that you said, you sketch the art, and when you're doing art, you just have to be consistent with it and don't stop just because it's might be tied to a book. But for me, that sparked a question in my mind of what comes first, the art or the words?
Yes. Yeah. I've gone back and forth a long time, but right now it is leaning more toward the art first. So I try to keep a practice of sketching and painting a little bit every day. And I try to see I try to see like what the colors are telling me. Like what is this tiger that I've painted? What is it telling me? For instance, I just finished A through Z. It took me forever. All the animals for like a kid series I did. I did an animal A to Z. Wow, why did I decide to do that? I don't know, but I just finished the art and and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know what this says yet. So I don't know. So I'm like, let me just focus on what I want. What I'm like, well, I like that this tiger has this background and that I've painted it this way. I don't know what the story is yet. So I'll see. So I try to paint first and go from there.
So as this segment is about highlighting the best of a generation, right, of which you most certainly are, what does it mean to you to walk in excellence and become the best of your generation?
Ooh, that's such a good question. For me, I feel like it is give energy where you can give energy and rest where you need to rest, because there's a lot of opportunity within my generation, being a millennial, to do a lot of different things, even for younger generations. But at the same time, it's so important that you honor your capacity at the same time and say, I'm not going to do that though. That's somebody else's work. I support them. I love it, but this is for me over here, or at least for this season. So that's what I would say. I hope that, in fact, when I get people asking me saying, how do you do all this? How do you do it? I say, pay attention to the stuff that I don't do. I'm like, I'm not posting like a lot of Instagram stories throughout the day. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just like, I have to have boundaries. I'm like, I can't do the art if I'm doing that. So I have to choose, and it takes a lot of energy at times to choose. And that's where that rest comes in. So give energy where you can give energy, and like give your all to it. And then at the same time, rest where you need to rest. That's what I hope to share with others.
Oh, love that. Okay, so let's go ahead and wrap. What's next for you? What projects are you working on, and where can we follow you in your journey?
Yeah, so what's next is me writing these research papers that I just decided to sign myself up for. um, but it's all tied into my larger work is just interactive art. So I have an app called Storyteller, and I actually have a meeting later today. We're bringing some more features to it. The hope is to bring some kind of like word search and calming game settings into the app. So yeah, that's what's next. My app is called Storyteller, putting a lot of love into that right now. And I can't wait to see what lies ahead.
And last thing, where can we follow you in your journey?
Yes, I am Morgan Harper Nichols, pretty much everywhere on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest. You can find me, Morgan Harper Nichols.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Best of a Generation and Stars. Morgan, we appreciate your work. Thank you for contributing to society and giving us your babies, right? Your books, and putting your work into the world. We definitely appreciate all of it. So thanks again.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Take care.
You too.
Now we need to get a couple of drops. Just, I am Morgan Harper Nichols, author of the title of your book. And you are watching Star Studio, rolling out Star Studio.
Okay. All right. I got you.
Rolling out Star Studio. I'm going to go off camera. Okay, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Morgan Harper Nichols. I am the author of You Are Only Just Beginning, and you are watching Rolling Out Star Studios. Did I say that right?
You did. Okay, and we just need one more. This is Rolling Out Meet the Author.
Okay. Hello, sorry. Well, hello, my name is Morgan Harper Nichols. I am the author of You Are Only Just Beginning, and you are watching Rolling Out Meet the Author.
Okay, and one more. That's it. I promise you. One more. This one is Sisters with Superpowers podcast.
Okay.
Powers.
Hey, you are listening to Sisters with Superpowers podcast. Okay. Well, hello, my name is Morgan Harper Nichols. I am the author of You Are Only Just Beginning, and you are listening to Sisters with Superpowers podcast.
That's it. You can pick it up from there.
Okay. And you are listening to Sisters with Superpowers podcasts.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Getting that book. It's beautiful, by the way. And if we show some of the images.
Yeah, of course. Yes, you can show any part of that too.
Slice in some of the images as you're talking about them. Okay.
That's good. Yes, thank you
so much. We appreciate you, Morgan. Take care.
Thank you, ladies.
All right, bye.
Talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day.
Take care. Bye-bye.